Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to E-commerce Mastery. I'm your host, Ben Gothard, and today we have the honor of speaking with Matt Hagberg. How you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I'm so excited to dig into all of the amazing things that you know and to really pick your brain here. So to give everybody a breakdown of what we're going to cover, first thing is we're going to hear Matt's story. We're going to hear the incredible things that, Matt, you've done from when you got started in e-commerce until now. Then we're going to break down the three fundamentals of how you, Matt, went from zero to $100,000 per month in 90 days. So we're going to break down those three fundamentals. Then we're going to give everybody who's listening the number one lever that you can pull right now to start seeing results as quickly as possible. And then finally, we are going to wrap it on up. So that's what we're looking forward to. Matt, can you start us off, please? I'd love to hear your story.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks again for inviting me. Really the story starts in end of 2016. A friend of mine came to me with this concept of drop shipping and starting e-commerce stores and brands via drop shipping. And at first he said, hold on a minute, let me do some more research and test some things out and see if it works. And he went on in just the last, I think 7 weeks of 2016, he went on to make $250,000 because it's Christmas time and it's easier to make money at that time. So then he tells me this and I'm mad at him because he told me to wait. So I decided 2017, that was going to be my New Year's resolution, was I was going to try this thing. So the other thing was he kind of guided me toward people who understood how to do this, who had been doing it before. So I had some resources and things like that. So I launched January 1st, 2017, and I just dug in. Before work, after work, I would just spend time doing what I needed to do to build an e-commerce store and brand. Really doing the first 2 to 3 weeks was really a lot of like market research, testing different things, testing markets, things like that. But then once I was able to tap into a market that I really understood and I really understood how to market to, I basically stopped spending my own money at, actually it was at around $600. I just stopped spending my own money. And everything that happened operationally after that was from revenue coming in from customers. So the end of the first month, technically it was basically break even. I think I made maybe $4,000 or $5,000. But then it gave me the ability to understand how to scale that. And so everything that came in after that, I just poured right back into the business. So by the end of the second month, I was at right around $45,000 in revenue. And then I just did it again. I just doubled down again. And that's when I broke the 100K mark in that third month and just kept doing it after that. So yeah, that was really, that was the 90-day whirlwind. That was my introduction into e-commerce. From there, I got introduced to different brands, different companies, like ClickFunnels. I actually work with ClickFunnels to manage all of their paid advertising right now. I work with other startups and places like that. Done projects with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi and different people like that. So it's been amazing. Jumping into e-commerce it turned out to be more than just e-commerce fun and excitement and chaos. I got exposed to this whole new online marketing community that I didn't really know existed. And it's been amazing ever since, and being able to work with these different geniuses in ways that I never thought I would. So yeah.
So if I'm hearing correctly, basically in 90 days, you went from working 60 to 80 hours on something else to also starting your own e-com business. You put in $600 of your own money. That generated enough in revenue to where you could keep reinvesting into the business. You got to 45K in the second month. Then you got to over 100K in the third month. And then using that success as a launch pad, you are now directing paid traffic for ClickFunnels, which is a $100 million plus company.
Yeah.
and working with multi-billion-dollar brands like Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Am I hearing that correctly?
Actually, what's funny is I decided in January 2017, all I was going to do was, instead of spending the money I would normally spend going to like Starbucks and all these other like fast food, I would make coffee at home, and I basically just cut 5 to 25 bucks a day of expense. And that's what I used on my e-commerce store to get launched. And it took however long it took to spend $600 of that is really what got me launched. And it's hilarious that cutting out Starbucks for 2 or 3 weeks has now resulted in everything that you just said.
That is incredible. So I know everybody is dying to know the fundamentals of how you got to that 100K mark. So let's break it down. What's
Yeah.
fundamental number one?
Number one, be teachable. And this applies to everything in your life, but since we're talking about ecom, be teachable. And everything that people told me, I sought out people that had success, that had proven success. And when they told me to do something, I just did it because I knew, I didn't second guess, because I knew they knew more than me. When they talked about using certain tools, when they talked about using Dropified to find good products and all of those things, I was just like, you know what? Okay, let's just do it. And I just assumed I knew nothing and just blindly took whatever next step they told me to. So that was number one, was being teachable and allowing yourself to learn and not second guess people who know more than you.
So did you take what they said verbatim, or did you put your own spin to it, or did you model them, or how exactly did you, once you received that information, implement that into your business?
It was a little bit of both verbatim and modeling. And I say that because there are steps within building a business or a company or a brand that um, the process is the same no matter what you do. So those things you can take verbatim and just copy and paste in whatever situation. But there's other things that you need to model. So for example, if you're wanting to start a brand, um, it's really hard to do so, and potential borderline immoral and illegal, to just grab someone else's brand and try to just copy it verbatim. But you can model what other people are doing and go do it in your own way. And I won't even say do it better. I'll just say do it in your own way, because people are going to be drawn to you as a brand, or your brand in its own voice, that aren't going to be drawn to other brands that may be selling the same thing but do it in a different way.
Could you give some examples of both of those things, the things that every business has to go through, so you really stuck to the advice, and then the things you kind of customized and really personalized?
Yeah. Two easy ones would be like, the verbatim stuff would be when you're launching Facebook ads. Like the Facebook ads platform has certain functionalities, and it's the same functionalities for every person. So when you're wanting to accomplish a goal of someone buying something from you from your e-commerce store, then chances are you're probably going to go through pretty much the same steps for launching ads and things like that. Even your ads themselves probably have similar templates. But that's another good example, is your ads wouldn't be copied verbatim from someone else, because you're either selling a different product or you're coming from a different brand perspective, or whatever the case may be. So you can go look at other people's examples, and you can really see how they draw people in, how they tap into emotion, the emotion of buying, things like that, and then apply that to the brand that you're trying to grow.
That's really powerful. So I have one other question on this be teachable part, and then I want to move on to the second fundamental. With being teachable, and it's kind of a two-part question. One, when you're going out and scouring the world for information, are you looking for videos, podcasts, books,
Mhm.
seminars, newspaper clippings? Like what are you looking for? And then how do you stay focused on learning and implementing? Because if you spend all your time learning and not doing,
Yeah.
you're smart, but in theory, but you haven't done anything, but you have to learn to be able to implement better. So
Yeah.
two-part question.
So when it comes to learning, I like to try to grab things that are the newest, freshest thing, especially with online marketing and e-commerce. Like, things change so quickly. Actually, the joke for a long time in Facebook ads was, whatever you're doing a month ago has changed. Facebook had done so many, especially between 2016 and 2018, they had done so many algorithm changes that you had to change what you were doing every month. So thankfully that's calmed down a little bit, and it's gotten really smart. But that that is a main reason why I like to consume via like podcasts and YouTube videos and things like that, because they tend to be a little more up to date than books or other medium that come out. Maybe it came out a few years ago and now it's just obsolete. However, there are really good books out there that, when they teach principles of what you're trying to institute, then they can be applied. There's a lot of marketing materials out there, Russell Brunson being a huge one, that when they put out books, they're putting out books that are based on principle and not necessarily based on tactics and strategies for that particular year or time in life. And they can be applied across, everything that you're going to face. And they applied, 50, 100 years ago. But when it comes to tactics and strategies, I want to hear what's working right now, and I want to learn from someone who's doing it. And then as far as applying it, that YouTube has been a huge resource for me and a lot of people. There's really generous people out there that will literally just set up a series of videos that is, hey, look, I built an entire business and this is how I did it. And it'll just be video 1, video 2, video 3. And you could literally just go in and search for one person who went through and did it all and shows you all the results. And just after each video, just jump onto your computer and do whatever they did in that video. That's how I would implement, is do what some people call just-in-time learning, where basically it's, all right, what do I need to do in the next step? Okay, I went and I learned it. Now I'm going to go apply it. All right, now what's the next step? And just keep going back and forth and back and forth. Try not to eat the whole elephant and then reproduce it somewhere else. Go start with a smaller bite and reproduce it one at a time.
That's brilliant. So what I believe we just heard was, we are, for tactics and strategies, the cutting edge stuff, we want to use videos, YouTube, podcasts, audio stuff that is really recent. And then for more of your principles and your deep seated evergreen things that just aren't going to change very much over the course of years, that's
Yep.
when we want to rely more on books. And then as far as implementing, when we learn something, we don't just want to race ahead and keep learning and learning and learning and learning. We want to learn, implement,
Yep.
and we want to take that elephant of learning and do it one little bite at a time.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's move on to principle number 2.
Perfect. So the second thing that I noticed was, I went and got a coach as fast as I could. And it just so happened that the friend of mine that introduced me to e-commerce, he also sought after a coach. And so we found the same coach. We started learning under this person. And that really fast tracked my 0 to 100,000. And it wasn't even a situation where I had to be one-on-one with the coach, because when I got started, this person had created a course and it walked you through step by step. And that was what seeking after a coach was for me. Was I went and got this course. But it didn't take long. Once I hit a certain plateau, it didn't take long for me to realize, all right, now I need to dig in deeper. And the stuff I need now is not on YouTube. It's not on the 20% of things I need to learn now are not found with the rest of the 80% that's all across the internet. So that was really the number 2 lesson that I had to learn, was get a coach who's done this, who can guide me. And I paid for the coach. I actually recommend that you find someone that you can pay versus someone who's doing it for free. Simply because, honestly, psychologically, when you put some skin in the game, you tend to work harder to actually earn something back. So it's more for the person giving the money than it is for the person getting the money in that transaction. But yeah, that was definitely lesson number 2. Get someone to guide me, to hold my hand, to tell me, all right, do this next. That really launched everything.
That's fascinating. So it seems like you got to a certain point with free material, then you got a course, and that got you a little bit further. And then you hit some sort of wall. And that's when you knew, okay, now is when I need the coach. And you went out and found the coach. Two
Yeah.
questions again. What were those two milestones of moving from free material to paid course and then moving from the course to the coach? How did you know that it was the right time for those things? And then I'll save the next question for later.
Yeah. So in that case, the free to paid material was essentially, actually for both of them, really, it was, I went through the steps and then I got as far as the material would take me, and then it doesn't take you any further. Um, it's just, there's just not material available for certain steps along the way, because for a lot of people, it's not worth providing that material, because 80 to 90% of the people who start consuming it won't get that far. So it's not really worth it to put a bunch of free material out that 90% of people aren't actually going to consume. Especially on YouTube, when you want to be monetized, if no one's watching the video, you're not getting monetized for that. And if people don't make it that far, they're not watching the video. Um, so really, in both cases, that's what it was. I got as far as I could in the material that was provided. I started seeing the results they were talking about, and then I said, okay, now I need the next step, but it's not here. Let me go find where it is. And then when I went through the paid material, same thing. I got to a certain point, and then I was like, okay, I'm seeing the results they're talking about, and now I need the next step, and there's no material for that. So I need to go talk to this person one-on-one and figure out what they're doing, so that way I can learn from them and implement it myself.
So do you think that you just have a gift for e-commerce and you were able to go through the steps, get those results, move on to the paid course, and then move on to the coach? Like, are you a god of e-commerce, or is this something that everybody can do?
um, Definitely not. So the only thing that I'd say I'm quote unquote gifted at is I do tend to have an insight on psychology, which helps in the marketing world. I've had people ask me about going to college to get their MBA and things like that. And I would ask them, what do you want to do? And if they say, I want to launch a business, then I would say, well, you're better off actually learning more about psychology than business operations or getting your MBA, because psychology will make you money because you understand how to sell to people, rather than an MBA or some sort of business operations, because then you're just taught how to make the functions of a business work. So that's the only, I'm going to say, edge that I've ever had, is just an ability to kind of understand psychology and how that works. Everything else was me just being dumb enough to listen to somebody who was smarter than me. That's literally what it was. That was it.
That's awesome. So I want to take a quick tangent here because I feel like I would be dumb not to go down this rabbit hole. But could we talk a little bit about that psychology? What are some of the key things here or key resources that we can explore if we don't have time to explore all of those key things right now?
Um, let's start with the resources. So resources, like I said, Russell Brunson's books. There are, oh man, of course names are gonna elude me right now. Looking at the big names out there, whether it's Dean Graziosi or Brandon Burchard or Russell Brunson, and even Jay Abraham, some of the like old heads in marketing, like all of these different people have provided some sort of resource, whether it's a book or whatever the case may be, that can help you in the psychology of marketing. And that marketing is what's going to drive your business. Without marketing and advertising, you don't make money. You don't create sales. So that's really, and what it breaks down to is just how do you connect with your potential customer in a way that drives them to want to take an action, whatever action you want them to take, whether it's to buy something, to give you their email address, to call you, whatever the case may be. The psychology all breaks down to what do you need to say to them or show them in a video that drives them to emotionally want whatever it is that you're promising them.
That is powerful. Because if you think about it, once you've cracked the code on compelling people to take action, then it's taking that framework and
Yep.
deciding what action you want to compel them to do. And then you could almost pick and choose instead of, can I sell this one thing, to what do I want to sell, or
Yeah.
what business do I want to build? That is
Yeah.
huge. That's
And those are those
massive.
principles. Yeah. Those are those principles from before that have applied for millennia, not just 50 or 100 years, but when you sold things at a market and you wanted to drive people to come buy from you instead of somebody else 50 steps down the market, you created some sort of compelling reason for them to make an emotional purchase with you instead.
I love that. So thank you for going down that rabbit hole.
Sure.
And let's move on to principle number 3.
So number 3, this was a tough one. It was figuring out balance. Like you said, I was working, so I was co-owner of a company at the time, and director of operations, and I had to figure out how to balance that responsibility with this venture in e-commerce. And so I just figured out, I made time. I realized that there was 1 or 2 hours before my workday that I could take back and reserve, rather than, you know, kind of just sitting around the house and drinking coffee, waiting for the time at which I would go to work. I could actually sit in front of my computer and launch some Facebook ads or do some market research or whatever the case may be. And then when I got home in the for 2 or 3 hours before either sitting down at dinner or after dinner, before bed, or whatever the case may be, I could do that again. I could sit down and launch ads, do more market research, assess whatever my business is doing and react to it. And I really just figured out how to do everything in chunks, where I broke it down into 1 hour chunks. And it allowed me to basically build and operate a business with just 3 hours a day, that then made it to 100,000 a month in 3 months. So yeah.
That is massive. So it seems like you were looking for any area, almost trimming the fat and getting ruthlessly efficient with your time to
Yeah.
say, what time, if any, can I take back and rip out of the clutches of not starting a business and put it into the domain of now
Yes.
that time's being deployed towards starting a business. And so can you talk a little bit about how you actually went about batching those tasks, and how
Yeah.
did you think through that?
Well, the good thing is, by this time in my life, I had been managing businesses, and I had launched a couple of brick and mortar businesses. And really, my strength had become creating systems and teams. And so I had practice in figuring out how to do just that, how to create a system, how to batch these things together. So what I did was, as I was learning from the people that were smarter than me, and I saw all of the things that needed to get done day in and day out, I decided to just figure out how to lump them together in times that made sense with my day. So, for example, whenever you launch Facebook ads, especially on a really small budget, you are concerned about losing money each and every day. If you launch in a specific way, then you have to allow for a certain amount of time to go by in order to get data back from Facebook, Google, wherever you're advertising. So I could literally launch something and know, okay, I need to wait 2 days to see how this is going to go. So I don't have to worry about this for 2 days now. So in that 2 days, I'm now going to do these two things. I'm going to do more market research, look for more products to test, whatever the case may be. Um, and really, it just came down to advertising, so launching ads, and market research, so researching other products and the audiences that want them, and the types of ads that they're already responding to in that industry. Um, so it really just came down to those two. And so I would batch those, and just made life easier for myself.
That is so interesting. So it seems like those those batches or those buckets of action items almost group themselves, and you really just paid
Yep.
attention to how they naturally fit together to be
Exactly.
most efficient for yourself.
Yeah.
That's powerful. So just to quickly recap here, it seems like our three fundamentals are: we want to be teachable, we want to find a coach, and we want to make sure that we are able to balance and take back our time and be ruthlessly efficient and almost systematize how we deploy our time
Yeah.
towards our business.
Yeah. Those three things really led to that 100K mark.
That's amazing. So I want to talk about the lever that we can pull, but first I want to go a little bit off script, and I want to ask, at this point, you've done so much, you've come so far. What are the challenges that you're working on now? That you tackled learning ecom. What are the things that you're working on and you're learning at this point?
Um, Honestly, it's taking some of those concepts and it's applying them to $100 million companies, and as well applying it to different industries that I haven't worked with before. So my agency still works with startup companies, and I don't think we've seen the same industry come through yet. We keep getting different people with different industries, especially now with the quarantine and coronavirus and all that stuff. Like, people have been forced to bring their business online either at all or faster than they wanted to. So it's thankfully brought us more clients who are looking for the ability to do that. Um, so that's one thing, is just trying to stay on my toes when it comes to how do we apply these things across different industries. So kind of spreading it wider. And then the other side of that being digging deeper, where when I'm working with a $100 million company, how do we now dig this even deeper where we get more clients and we get more revenue and it's more efficient ad spend and the ROI is better and all of these different types of things. And then the fun part for me is just working with different people like Tony Robbins and Dean and stuff like that. Like, that's just fun.
That's amazing. Well, Matt, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing everything that you have. I do want to talk about that number one lever for everybody who's listening and watching. What can we do right now? Well, in a few minutes when the show's over, what can we do immediately to start seeing results?
Yeah. I'd say that coach is the biggest thing. If you want to move your business ahead faster, if you want to remove months and years from your timeline, um, find that coach. Find the person who can help you to launch your business forward even faster. Or even if you hit a plateau and you're not sure where to go next, that is exactly what a coach is for, is to help you bust through that plateau, figure out what it is that you need next. That would be the lever I would pull, is just figure out who it is that you can go to help you to go faster.
Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. I mean, Matt, you really laid out a blueprint for how to be successful, not just in ecom, but for almost everything. I really don't think I could think of anything that this would not apply to. So again, I want to thank you so much. For people who want to get a little bit more involved with you, learn more about you, learn from you, etc. What do we do? Where do we go? What do we click?
Yeah, just matthagberg.com, MATTHAGBERG.com. Everything that I do and my agency does is all there. If you're looking for help, whether it's business operations, marketing, whatever the case may be, head on over there and we can help you out.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you so, so much for coming on the show. You rock. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who's watching and listening. Y'all rock too. Thank you. And I will see everybody on the next episode.